Thanks, Tyler, and thank you for tuning in to the Amherst Weekly Report.
Hello, and welcome to the Amherst Weekly Report by Amherst Media. I'm Jade Mosley.
And I'm Mariana Gonzalez.
The Emily Dickinson Museum ended its annual Tell It Slant Poetry Festival just 2 weeks ago. The event ran from September 19th to the 25th and included workshops, readings, and panels open to the Amherst community. Among these events, perhaps the most exciting for avid Dickinson fans and the most quintessential to the festival is the reading of each and every one of Emily Dickinson's 1,789 poems. Even the festival's name pays homage to Dickinson. Tell All the Truth But Tell It Slant is one of her most well-known poems. The Dickinson Museum claims that this name was chosen to underscore the revolutionary power of poetry to shift our perspective and reveal new truths. Since COVID, this event has been held virtually. Now, the museum is once again allowing festival attendees to celebrate Dickinson in person. However, the museum opted for a hybrid model rather than an in-person one. While this doesn't mimic the pre-COVID model, it also gave attendees the opportunity to choose how and where they wanted to listen to one of Amherst and America's most prominent poets.
The COVID-19 pandemic's impact on visual artists across the world has been nothing short of devastating. What used to be filled with colorful and lively in-person gallery shows and interaction is now reduced to Zoom waiting rooms and unreliable Wi-Fi connection. And despite COVID restrictions across Massachusetts loosening up as of late, the predominantly creative community of Western Massachusetts has still not fully recovered. According to research done by the state of Massachusetts in its 2020 Cultural Council COVID Economic Impact Report, 1 in 3 jobs in the Massachusetts cultural sector has been affected by COVID-19. Statewide, artists have lost $20 million in wages because of the pandemic. So when the idea for an online resource for artists to connect and promote their work for other members of the art world came back into circulation after years of discussion and no action, founders D. Boyle Clapp and Lisa DeVoe jumped into action to make it a reality and launched the officially titled Western Mass Arts Hub site in March of last year. D. Boyle Clapp is the director of the UMass Arts Extension Service, and Lisa DeVoe is the marketing manager for the Franklin County Chamber of Commerce. And within the last year and a half, managed to gather a slew of partnerships, artists, and funding for this beautiful project purely to restore the colorful creative community of Western Mass. Some of these partnerships include the University of Massachusetts Amherst, Arts Extension Service, and members of the Creative Economy Network. They also received funding from the Community Foundation of Western Mass and the Mass Office of Business Development. And although often understated, it is clear with the receptive response the Arts Hub has received that the art communities of Western Massachusetts are deeply valuable to the health of our economy and residential life. The website features profiles on both popular and upcoming artists of the area, promotion of cultural and art-centered events around Western Mass, job opportunities of members of the art world, and grants for registered artists on the site. The most important of all, a user-friendly outlet for artists and creatives alike to virtually connect with one another without jeopardizing their safety. The future for the Arts Hub of Western Mass appears bright and equally colorful. We look forward to utilizing it as a source for cultural events across Amherst and beyond. To learn more, visit their website artshubwma.org and subscribe to their weekly newsletter.
The town of Amherst has been dealing with COVID-19 since the start of the pandemic back in March 2022. As of March 2022, Amherst has had 10,291 total confirmed cases. Amherst's official COVID-19 website, amherstcovid.org, states that all positive cases confirmed in Amherst may vary as universities and colleges may impact the total cases if staff, students, and faculty live outside of Amherst. Now with the 2022 academic year in full swing, there are currently 36 positive active cases as of October 3rd, 2022. This data is collected from positive PCR tests and people's reported positive antigen tests and all who are still currently in isolation. Amherst College reports that since the start of fall 2022 semester, there have been 258 confirmed positive cases. Of these reported cases, 106 have been from students, 79 have been staff cases, and 43 have been from faculty cases. As of October 5th, 2022, there is 1 active case for students, 2 active cases from faculty, and 10 active cases from staff. All Amherst College reported positive cases are collected from PCR tests from the college's testing center since August 1st, 2022, or a self-reported antigen test from the Amherst College community. The University of Massachusetts Amherst has over 30,000 students, which plays a major role in the number of cases there are in Amherst. Since the fall of 2022, UMass is providing rapid antigen testing kits to its community. The university is also providing PCR tests to its community members who have shown COVID-19 symptoms or who have a known exposure. UMass also has elective PCR tests that students, faculty, and staff can purchase for $25. UMass is following Massachusetts CDC guidelines for those who test positive. Students and faculty who test positive for COVID-19 are reported to isolate for the first 5 days. If continuing to test positive after the 5-day quarantine, the infected person must wear a mask around people until 10 days after testing positive, or until they test negative on an antigen test twice within 48 hours.
The Jones Library has been looking toward renovating its facilities for the past couple of years, but due to a rise in inflation, the library could be looking at a potential $48 million expenditure in the facilities improvement. The increase comes from inflation as well as several project revisions that take in account the accessibility of the building and necessary repairment. The plan was put into motion when the library applied for a Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners grant for $50,000. The Jones Library reached 9th place in the MLBC waitlist for receiving the grant money for the new renovations cost. The Jones Library moved up to 2nd place in the waitlist in 2019 when the cost had already increased to $36 million. Amherst residents started to debate the renovation costs. Amherst residents gave a varied response to the tax increase of the Jones Library renovations. While some residents believe that the new renovations are worth the cost, other residents believe that the expansion of the library won't benefit residents and will only take a dip into the town's finances. The counter-argument refers to the fact that the library is the 9th biggest in the state. It is debated that the space of the library is inadequate for the low amount of people who use the services of the establishment. It is also critiqued how this project is taking away the money that could be used for other of the town's projects, like the Public Works building or fire station renovations. People who argue that the new renovations are worth the cost state that the library is often used for more than just book lending, and the amount of services that the library provides is worth the inflated cost of the library's renovation. People who argue that the library's cost is worth it state that any money that isn't being provided for the library won't actually go into any other facilities renovations in the town of Amherst.
The Amherst Elementary School is set to open in the fall of 2026 at the current Fort River site. The school building committee was approved at the end of August by the state to continue forward with the schematic design. In the schematic design, the committee figures out building details and technicalities in the project. Let's take a look at their progress so far.
We're working hard on what's called wayfinding. So trying to make sure if a student enters the school, there's natural ways for them to know where their classroom might be, where the art room, where the music room is. You know, you see that even in buildings for adults that are more recent, right? Like just not just signs, but actually color schemes can direct a person to a specific area. So we're working on that piece as well. We're trying to not build like, you know, I'm using, not that we'd seriously consider it, so it's hyperbole, but we're not trying to build like gold-plated doors in the front that we then can't afford in the back end. We're trying to be very realistic. We don't want to present a building that we don't want, right? So we don't want to just do everything the cheapest, and that's not a building I think our community would support because we know cost is a major concern. So we're sort of making those decisions along the way of trying to be really balanced in how we approach the cost of the project. But you know, almost every project has what's called value engineering. So you have what you think is good, and then you cost it out and you say, okay, what do we manage? How do we approach that and bring the cost more in line with what the community can afford?
Moving from the preferred schematic report to the schematic design, the committee has begun ironing out the details of this new school, according to Superintendent and committee member Mike Morris. The committee is talking about traffic safety and the logistics of traffic around the school. They have figured out a way to incorporate more green space behind the school and also are figuring out physical features of the building, such as material and color. The committee will soon be having a safety meeting with the fire and police department to discuss safety features in the school, Morris said. They are getting much more detailed at this stage. For example, they are discussing different types of windows in the school. They've done studies on what windows would be best to reduce glare and maximize light, studying as many as 22 different options to make the best decision. They are also working on something called wayfinding in the school. We're working hard on what's called wayfinding, so we're trying to make sure if a student enters the school, there's natural ways for them to know where their classroom might be, where the art room is, or the music room is, Morris said. Morris said the committee has been thorough and detailed in their approach to the design, saying, "I'm glad they're doing it right. This new building is meant to last over 50 years, so the committee is making sure decisions are well thought out so that it lasts and works well." They have yet to share a refined estimated cost of their project, and will do so when they have decided on more of the details. Morris said this will be around December. As of June this year, the estimated cost was $105.9 million, but again, there will be a more accurate cost shared in December. Morris said the committee is trying to balance making the school the best they can while keeping the cost reasonable. According to Mass Live, the town will vote on whether or not to increase taxes to fund the project on May 2nd, 2023. If the town votes yes, this would allow the town to borrow the money needed for the project, increasing taxes until the debt is paid off, usually 10 to 20 years after, the Amherst School Project website says. It was originally projected that the state would pay for half the cost of the school, but it might only be about 30 to 40%. The town may create a capital stabilization fund of $9.5 million to pay for the four major town building projects: the elementary school, the Jones Library, a new fire station in South Amherst, and a new Department of Public Works headquarters, according to the Gazette. There will be another community feedback meeting soon, so if you are interested in talking to the members of the building committee, keep an eye out for their community forums. And now to Tyler for sports.
Thanks, Jade. UMass football faces Liberty at home this Saturday in a controversial matchup that centers more off the field than on it. Liberty is an evangelical university who stand by staunchly anti-gay policies in their student handbook while also having a marred history of racial discrimination. Just 2 years ago, many black athletes transferred out due to racial insensitivity on campus, with one student, Tavion Land, even claiming that a professor referenced striking him with a whip when he said that he didn't want to tutor. UMass, boasting a largely progressive, pro-LGBTQ campus mindset, and who are attempting to distance themselves from their own racial controversy from last year, have been called into question for scheduling this matchup in the first place. While there hasn't been a direct catalyst cited, it's interesting to note that the school has scheduled its own Pride Day for Liberty's visit. Though the administration has said that the timing of this Pride Day is purely coincidental, on behalf of the student body, this decision has further fueled the fires entering an already heated matchup. This is the second time that a Pride Day has been scheduled for a traveling Liberty squad, as their field hockey team entered a similarly coincidental setting on a September 9th trip to Northwestern University. Whether these off-field issues spill into game time remains to be seen, but with Minutemen football showing more life than they have in the past few seasons, this matchup has easily become their most anticipated yet. The Amherst Mammoths' greatest controversy, however, remains on the turf, as their football team has yet to win a single game this season. The squad has yet to score more than 10 points in a contest, with their most recent blowout occurring against Trinity College, where they lost 20-3. The team has struggled to build any momentum on offense, as their starting quarterback, Mike Piazza, has thrown only one passing touchdown to 4 interceptions. The blame can't entirely be placed on his shoulders, however, as everything from the run game to special teams to defense and the whole offense in general have got off to a shaky start. The season is far from over, though, as the Mammoths will play at least through November 12th, so if they can go on a solid run from here, their playoff hopes aren't yet entirely out the window. Arguably, UMass's most dominant team thus far has been their women's field hockey squad, who remain undefeated in their conference with only 2 losses to their name. Molly Herberhold leads the pack, having nabbed 6 goals total, with Jess Beach and Claire Danahy trailing close behind with 5. Overall, they've scored 32 points and only allowed 18, displaying the level of dominance that has firmly established them as the highest-ranked team in the A10 conference. UMass men's soccer, meanwhile, has not been nearly as successful as field hockey was. They do still get to boast that they're the only undefeated team on campus, though, albeit by technicality, as they have 5 draws on their ledger. This ties them with St. Joseph's University for the most draws in the A10 conference, placing them in the middle of the pack overall. Their conference matchups have proven the most difficult, as they've only emerged victorious in 1 out of 4, with the other 3 ending in draws. To establish themselves as a team to be taken seriously in the A10 conference, they'll need to get better at closing out these close games, because there is a massive difference between winning and just not losing. Wrapping up with UMass women's soccer, while the team has overall struggled so far, they've managed to maintain a solid in-conference record, placing them 3rd in the A10. Their losing record outside the conference can be mitigated if they keep up this hot streak when it matters most. The squad made it all the way to the A10 finals last season, and as I said on our previous broadcast, a similar story is well within reason if they can keep relying on the feat of Lauren Bonavita, who's capable of taking over the offense on any given day. Aside from field hockey, at this point in the semester, UMass's teams aren't necessarily the top of the pack in any regard, but many of them have a high enough ceiling to balance out the relatively low floor that I believe that we're seeing at the moment. There's a lot of time left for many of these squads to bounce back. It's just a matter if they can believe it themselves. Back to you, Ariana.
Thank you, Tyler, and thanks for tuning in to the Amherst Weekly Report. I'm Ariana Gonzalez.
And I'm Jade Mosley. We'll see you at the same time again next week.